Hello and welcome. I'm Aaron Cooper. I'm Vice President of Global Policy for the Business Software Alliance. And I'm really pleased to have here today a member of BSA's Leadership Council, Bill Wright, who is Head of Global Government Affairs for Elastic. He has a long career in the enterprise software industry, but before that was also Staff Director on two subcommittees of the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, and in the administration and the intelligence community. Bill, it is wonderful to see you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. This is a great opportunity.
You know, Bill, I've been with BSA for almost a decade now, which seems like a long time to me. But you have been with enterprise software companies doing public policy for a little bit longer than that. There aren't very many of BSA members, people at BSA member companies working on policy who have been here longer than a decade. Can you just give one highlight of what you have seen change in the policy environment around enterprise software over the course of your time working here?
Yeah, sure. Obviously there have been a lot of changes, I think, since I've been working in enterprise software. I think, one that kind of jumps to mind that has changed since when I first started out is maybe the government's willingness to more closely partner with the private sector. So, and I mean this in a sort of the policy realm. That's why organizations like BSA have been such a wonderful conduit to kind of get our message to the government. But yeah, I'd say the embrace of public-private partnerships has been increasing every year. I think they see the value in what industry can bring with all of the expertise it has.
Thanks. All right, so let's dig in and let's start with the US. So we are about 3 months into the president's second term. One of the areas that the White House has been focused on, but doesn't always break through in the news cycles, is modernizing government IT. What's your perspective on where the barriers to modernizing and securing government IT are, and how does Elastic help with agencies overcoming them?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. This is a tough one. This is one I feel like I spend a lot of time on. Unfortunately, I think there are a number of barriers to the modernizing of the federal IT systems. I think the biggest one's sort of the inertia, associated with legacy software, federal IT systems. I think I read a stat that agencies are spending upwards of 80% of their IT budget just maintaining that legacy infrastructure. Some instances, the systems they're using are decades old. And so when there's so much money being spent toward the operations and maintenance of some of this legacy software, very little opportunity left to actually innovate. But I have to say that's probably not just in technology. Some of that's around how the government is structured. A lot of the CIOs don't have entire control over their IT spending. IT is improving and becoming more state of the art every day. Trying to anticipate that 2 years out is pretty tough. But so it makes it tough to coordinate really wholesale modernization from kind of top down. There's another barrier that I've seen a lot since I've been here at Elastic, and that is you add to some of those procurement complexities the fact that data is siloed, very fragmented data sets, oftentimes in inconsistent formats, these workforce gaps that we continually see. And it's easy to see why agencies are getting stuck trying to move forward. I think that's one thing that's been so satisfying really about working at Elastic is I think this is an area we can really lean into and support our federal partners. Public organizations are facing massive volumes of data every day. There's more and more. It's coming from diverse sources. So think of your IoT, your IT infrastructure, your cybersecurity logs, et cetera. Oftentimes stored in incompatible formats. This leads to information silos, data gaps, and these silos really hinder operational efficiency and that ability to deliver these critical services and protect these systems. So we help agencies bring together that siloed data from the different systems, and we call it our data mesh, allowing it to remain in sort of decentralized but still be searchable, secure, usable in real time. So agencies can then modernize very quickly.
That's such an important issue. One of the things that I think you and I have worked on for a long time now is open government data laws, where we want to try to make sure that that the government and different agencies is identifying data sets and making them available for use in the public. And I think you're talking about a variation on that.
Yeah.
It's important for government agencies to know what data they have and be able to operationalize across silos, which is one of the things that you all work on with agencies.
Absolutely. As they say, data's the new oil, or data's the new gold. Take whichever analogy you want. There's so much value in this data. Oftentimes it is trapped, it is siloed, fragmented. So to take full advantage of that data, you really need sort of modern solutions. Another area kind of along those lines, Aaron's around interoperability, open standards. Elastic here, we support open telemetry, OTel. This really helps agencies avoid that lock-in and ensures that their observability and their security tools can work across those diverse environments. So not just about more efficiency, but it really saves taxpayer dollars and speeds up mission outcomes, which I think is something that we can all agree on and get behind and support.
The administration has seemed very focused on improving government IT, and I'm wondering whether you see some of the moves that they've made, or just in some of your conversations with government agencies, they seem to recognize the value in that modernization. That yes, they have legacy systems, but they can save money in the long run by doing some of the things that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that we've had good conversations with our customers. I think everyone can agree that we want a government that can work and that is a good steward of taxpayer money. So IT modernization and efficiency, all lends itself to that. So while you may have some short term expenditures in the medium to long term, that's gonna save money, make a more agile, make a more efficient government that is more apt to take care of those citizen services.
One of the things that we've talked a lot about in the during the transition for the Trump second term was what his approach would be, what the administration's approach would be on AI in particular. There's an AI action plan that's still being drafted, but the administration recently came out with a procurement and government use guidelines for AI. What's your initial take on whether this will lead to greater AI adoption, and how do you see AI transforming the public sector in general?
Yeah, great question. AI is already having real impact across the government. Like I said, particularly around improving citizen services. Agencies are using AI to streamline benefit processing, detect fraud, improve emergency response. I think GAO did a study last year, Aaron, that identified over 1,200 federal use cases already out there. I'm sure that number is well north of that, and it's certainly not theoretical anymore. It's actually here. Government agencies, obviously, it's a little bit different. They work with sensitive, high trust data, so those systems are not just powerful, but they're going to need to be transparent, accountable, secure. So some of these recent EOs around government's use of AI, I think, sort of very much encourages that. It's also an area that Elastic really can help with and leans into. Our Search AI platform allows agencies to bring in their internal mission critical data into these generative AI workflows. So instead of relying solely on external or more generic models, these can be customized and generate results that are grounded in their own private data and their trusted data, and they can do it securely.
And being able to keep it secure, both in AI and outside of AI, is extremely important.
Yeah.
So you have an extensive background in cybersecurity, in and out of government.
Yeah.
Where do you see cybersecurity policy going over the next few years, and what do you think needs to be done to help federal agencies prepare for what's next?
Yeah, another good question. So, yeah, I've been doing cybersecurity for a long time. I think if there's one thing that is a constant, it's that the cyber threat landscape continues to get more complex and aggressive every year. We've got the same actors, nation state actors, cyber criminals, hacktivists. They're all constantly evolving their tactics. They're targeting critical infrastructure like we haven't seen before, government networks, supply chains, ransomware, 0 day, all of these. And now we introduce AI-driven attacks, deep fakes emerging as new challenges. And then you put all of that on an expanding attack surface. So think cloud services, remote work, connected devices, and we've really got some major challenges. Um, the policy environment's also evolving, thankfully, and BSA is a big, and our member companies are a big part of that. If there's one area I think that maybe there is some bipartisan agreement on, it's around cybersecurity. So I'm encouraged to see a little bit of continuity from the prior administration. There's a strong push for federal leadership in cyber. CISA playing a central role in the last administration. Now the Trump administration returning, we see a little bit of a shift toward a more, I would say, industry-driven approach, maybe scaling back on some of the federal mandates, prioritizing an offensive cyber capability in a way that we maybe didn't see before, and focusing on more voluntary standards, public-private partnerships.
You mentioned AI as one of the attack vectors. Are you optimistic about how AI can also be used on the security side?
Yeah, two sides of the coin, right? So I have to say I probably differ a little bit in this, but I think that ultimately use of AI enabled cybersecurity is going to slightly favor the defender. I think that kind of all this comes back to data. At Elastic, we view data as the solution for everything, and that those who have the most relevant data are also going to have the best cyber defense going forward. And I think that'll clearly sit with the defender. So I think AI enabled cybersecurity ultimately will tilt toward the defender.
Well, I like the optimistic note to have my last substantive question on. But let me ask you one final question. Um, I'm sure you could talk for a long time about your favorite things that are about your time at Elastic. But can you pick one that is among your favorite things that makes you proud about being part of the Elastic team?
Sure. This will sound like a little bit hackneyed expression here, but truly, since coming to Elastic, it has been it's been the people. We're a very innovative company. We're constantly pushing ourselves, even if it means sort of maybe short term, not helping the business as much. We're trying to look ahead for what our customers are going to need. There's a constant feedback loop, which I appreciate with our customers, hearing about what their challenges are, and we quickly sort of incorporate that into our build out going forward. So a lot of it is the people that we've chosen, and also sort of setting up an environment that rewards people who are thinking innovatively.
Well, pride in the place that you're working and the team that you're with is so important, and they're very fortunate to have you, and we're very fortunate to have you as a member and here today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Aaron. This has been fantastic. Really appreciate it.